There was a time in this country when nobody complained about what was for lunch. You were just grateful there was lunch. If you grew up in the 40s, 50s, or 60s, you remember a different kind of kitchen. One where your mother could open a nearly empty refrigerator and somehow, still put food on the table. Where nothing got thrown away. Where bread was precious, and whatever went between those two slices had count. Those were the sandwiches that raised us. Maybe you carried one to school in a wax paper bag. Maybe your dad packed one for the factory. Maybe you watched your grandmother make them without a recipe, without measuring, without wasting a single thing. And somehow, they tasted better than anything you've had since. Well, today, we're bringing all 60 of them back. These are the real poor man's sandwiches. The ones your grandparents actually ate to get through the Depression, the war years, and the lean times that followed. Some of them you probably haven't thought about in decades. A few of them you might have eaten yourself and completely forgotten. And 55 or 60 might just stop you cold and take you right back to your mother's kitchen table.
Number 1, butter and sugar sandwiches. You ever bite into something so simple it made you feel rich? That's what a butter and sugar sandwich was. 2 slices of white bread, a swipe of real butter, and a sprinkle of sugar that turned struggle into sweetness. This wasn't just a snack. It was a working man's treat, a kid's breakfast, a mama's way of saying, "I got you," when the fridge was looking empty. Elders remember sitting on the porch, holding that sandwich like it was gold, watching the sugar sparkle in the sun. It was soft, sweet, and gone in 3 bites. But the memory stuck around. Some folks toasted the bread, some used margarine, but the feeling? Always the same. It was comfort, it was pride, it was making magic out of nothing. And today, most folks wouldn't even think to make one. But ask your grandma, your uncle, or that neighbor who's been through it. They'll tell you, this sandwich was the truth. Number 2, pimento cheese sandwich. You ever spread something so creamy and kicking it made plain white bread feel like a treat? That's pimento cheese, the southern spread that had bite, body, and a whole lot of charm. Folks mixed shredded cheddar, mayo, and chopped pimentos into a bold, orangey mash that went straight from bowl to bread. It was tangy, cheesy, and had that peppery pop that made you say, now that's something. Elders remember making it for church picnics, school lunches, or just sitting on the porch with a cold glass of sweet tea. Some added cream cheese, some threw in a dash of cayenne, but the soul stayed the same. Comfort with a little sass. You ever talk to someone who still keeps a tub of it in the fridge right next to the pickles and peach jam? They'll tell you. This sandwich was Southern gold, spread thick and served with pride. Number 3, mashed potato sandwich. Have you ever taken last night's leftovers and turned into a whole new vibe? That's what a mashed potato sandwich was, pure comfort, no frills. 2 slices of soft bread, a thick scoop of cold mashed potatoes, maybe a little salt, maybe a swipe of mayo or mustard if you had it. It was creamy, starchy, and surprisingly satisfying. Elders remember making these before heading out to work. No meat, no cheese, just a belly filler that stuck with you through the day. Some folks toasted the bread, some added pickles or onions, but the heart of it was always the same, making something out of nothing. This sandwich didn't need to impress, it just needed to show up. And it did, every time. Today, folks toss out leftovers without thinking, but back then, a mashed potato sandwich was a badge of honor. Ask your grandma, your uncle, or that neighbor who still saves every scrap. They'll tell you, this sandwich was the real deal. Number 4, peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich. You ever taste something so odd it made you raise an eyebrow, then go back for another bite? That's the peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwich, a creamy, salty, sweet combo that had folks divided but never forgotten. Smooth peanut butter on one slice, mayo on the other, pressed together like it was the most natural thing in the world. Elders remember making this when the cupboard was bare, but the belly still needed filling. It was cheap, quick, and weirdly comforting, like a hug from a time when you made do with what you had. Some added banana, some sprinkled sugar, others just kept it plain and proud. Have you ever talked to someone who grew up in the Dust Bowl or during ration stamps? They'll nod slowly and say, "Yep, that sandwich got us through." This wasn't just a meal, it was a memory, spread thick and served with grit. Number 5, the tomato and sugar sandwich. Now tell me this, when's the last time you saw someone sprinkle sugar on a tomato and call it breakfast? Sounds strange today, but back then, that tomato and sugar sandwich was summertime gold. You grab a fresh tomato, slice it thick, lay it on soft white bread, and dust it with sugar like it was a peach. Some folks added a little salt, too. Sweet and salty, juicy and soft, all in one bite. Elders remember picking tomatoes right off the vine, warm from the sun, and making this sandwich barefoot on the porch. It was cheap, it was fast, and it tasted like freedom. No stove, no fuss. Just what the land gave you and what your hands could make. Today, folks chase gourmet, but back then, this was the flavor of childhood, of gardens and grandmas and long hot days. Ask your auntie, your cousin, or that neighbor who still grows tomatoes. They'll tell you. This sandwich was summertime magic. Number 6, chicken liver sandwich. You ever smell something simmering low and slow that told you dinner was gonna be deep and soulful? That's the chicken liver sandwich, rich, earthy, and full of old-school flavor that didn't need no fancy fixin'. Folks would saute chicken livers with onions, maybe a splash of vinegar or a knob of butter, then mash it into a spread that stuck to your ribs and warmed your bones. Slapped on rye, toast, or even crackers, it was a meal that said, "We eatin' good tonight." Back in the day, nothing went to waste, and this sandwich proved it. Some mixed in boiled eggs, some added a dash of mustard, but the real magic came from the skillet and the heart behind it. Ask someone who grew up with apron strings and cast iron. They'll remember the smell, the taste, and the pride of making something out of everything. Number 7, green tomato sandwich. You ever bite into something tangy, fresh, and straight from the garden? That's the green tomato sandwich, a Southern classic that's all but disappeared. Back in the day, when tomatoes weren't ripe yet but folks were hungry, they didn't wait. They sliced those firm, tart green tomatoes, dredged them in cornmeal, and fried them up crispy. Then came the sandwich, hot tomato slices laid on soft white bread, maybe with a swipe of mayo or a dash of hot sauce. Elders remember picking tomatoes before sunrise, frying them in cast iron, and building sandwiches that tasted like summer and struggle all rolled into one. It was crunchy, juicy, and full of pride. No bacon, no lettuce, just the tomato taking center stage. Today, folks chase avocado toast, but ask your grandma or that neighbor who still grows their own. They'll tell you. This sandwich was a garden-grown masterpiece. Number 8, egg and sardine sandwich. You ever crack open a tin and whip up something that smelled strong but tasted like home? That's the egg and sardine sandwich. Bold, briny, and built for folks who knew how to stretch a meal. Hard-boiled eggs mashed with sardines, maybe a little onion, maybe a splash of vinegar or hot sauce, all pressed between slices of bread that didn't need to be fancy. It was protein-packed, pantry-smart, and full of flavor that lingered long after the last bite. Back in the day, this was a go-to for lunch pails and late-night snacks, the kind of sandwich that filled you up and made you feel like you were eating something real. Some folks added mayo, some kept it dry and gritty, but every version had heart. Talk to someone who grew up with shelves full of canned goods and a knack for making magic. They'll smile and say, that sandwich had punch and it had purpose. Number 9, raw onion sandwich. You ever eat something so bold it made your eyes water and your soul smile? That's the raw onion sandwich. 2 slices of bread, a thick cut of white or yellow onion, maybe a swipe of mayo or mustard, and boom, you had a sandwich that didn't flinch. Elders remember eating this on break at the factory, sitting on the porch, or packing it for lunch when meat wasn't an option. It was sharp, crunchy, and honest. No frills, no fluff, just flavor that punched back. Some folks added salt, some toasted the bread, but the onion? That was the star. It cleared your sinuses and filled your belly. Today, folks might call it strange, but ask your granddaddy or that neighbor who still eats with pride, they'll tell you. This sandwich was a badge of toughness, a taste of real life, and a memory that lingers longer than the smell. Number 10, Spam and pineapple sandwich. You ever taste something that was sweet, salty, and straight up unexpected? That's the Spam and pineapple sandwich. A bold bite that came from making do and getting creative. Folks would fry up slices of Spam till the edges crisped, then layer it with canned pineapple rings right on soft white bread. Some toasted it, some added mustard or mayo, but the combo, it was a flavor bomb. Elders remember this sandwich showing up at cookouts, lunch breaks, or even breakfast when you needed something hearty and didn't mind a little zing. It was Tropical Meats Trailer Park, and it worked. The pineapple cut through the salt, the Spam brought the sizzle, and together they made a sandwich that stuck with you. Today, folks might laugh it off, but ask your uncle or that neighbor who still keeps Spam in the cupboard. They'll tell you. This sandwich was a whole mood.
Number 11,
Tuna and apple sandwich. You ever mix 2 things that shouldn't go together, and somehow it just works? That's the tuna and apple sandwich. Sounds wild, right? But back in the day, this was a go-to for folks who wanted crunch, creaminess, and a little surprise. You'd take canned tuna, stir in mayo, maybe a dash of mustard, and then fold in chopped apples. Sweet, crisp, and fresh. Slap that mix between 2 slices of bread, and boom! You had a sandwich that hit all the notes. Elders remember making this for lunchboxes, work breaks, or quick breakfasts when time was tight and flavor mattered. It was cheap, it was clever, and it tasted like someone cared. Some folks added celery, some used Miracle Whip. But the apple? That was the twist that made it sing. Today, folks might side-eye it, but ask your auntie or that neighbor who still keeps tuna in the pantry. They'll tell you. This sandwich was a sleeper hit.
number 12,
Cheese and Marmite sandwich. You ever taste something so bold it made your mouth pucker and your eyes light up? That's the cheese and Marmite sandwich. Salty, sharp, and not for the faint of heart. This one came from across the pond but found its way into American kitchens where folks weren't afraid to try something different. A thick smear of Marmite, dark, sticky, and packed with umami, lay under a slab of sharp cheddar, all hugged by soft white or hearty brown bread. Elders remember this as a you either love it or leave it kind of sandwich, but those who loved it, They swore by it. Some toasted it, some added butter, but the real ones kept it simple and strong. Have you ever talked to someone who grew up with a pantry full of hand-me-down jars and a taste for the unexpected? They'll tell you, this sandwich was a punch of flavor and a badge of pride. Strange, strong, and unforgettable.
Number 13.
Cornmeal mush sandwich. You ever eat something so humble it made you feel grounded? That's what a cornmeal mush sandwich was. Straight-up survival food with soul. Cornmeal mush was cooked thick, chilled overnight till it set like a brick, then sliced and fried golden in a skillet. And when times were lean, folks slapped it between 2 slices of bread, maybe added a smear of mustard or a slice of onion, and called it breakfast. Elders remember it sticking to their ribs before a long day of work. No meat, no cheese, just grit and grease. It was hot, crispy, and full of pride. Some folks sweetened it, some kept it savory, but either way, it was a sandwich that said, "We make do." Today, most folks don't even know what mush is, let alone how to turn it into a meal. But ask your granddaddy, your great-aunt, or that neighbor who still cooks from scratch, they'll tell you, this sandwich was the real deal.
Number 14.
Monte Cristo sandwich. You ever taste something so rich and melty it felt like breakfast, lunch, and dessert all rolled into one? That's the Monte Cristo, the sandwich that dressed up like French toast and showed up with swagger ham, turkey, and Swiss cheese stacked between slices of egg-dipped bread, then pan-fried golden and dusted with powdered sugar. Some folks even dipped it in jam, jam, and called it heaven on a plate. Elders remember ordering this at diners with red vinyl booths and bottomless coffee, or making it at home when they wanted to feel a little fancy without breaking the bank. It was indulgent, unexpected, and downright unforgettable. Back then, it wasn't just a sandwich. It was a treat, a flex, and a reason to slow down and savor, ask around. And you'll hear stories of first dates, Sunday brunches, and quiet mornings made special by this crispy, gooey masterpiece.
Number 15.
Egg olive sandwich. You ever taste something that made you pause and say, "Wait, this actually slaps"? That's the egg olive sandwich. Creamy, salty, and packed with personality. Folks would boil eggs, mash them up with mayo, and toss in chopped green olives for that briny kick. Spread it thick on white bread, and you had a sandwich that felt fancy without costing a dime. Elders remember making this for church picnics, lunch breaks, or quick breakfasts when time was short, but flavor still mattered. Some added a dash of paprika, some threw in a little mustard, but the olives? That was the twist that made it unforgettable. It was tangy, smooth, and bold. The kind of sandwich that didn't play by the rules. Today, folks might reach for avocado toast, but ask your grandma or that neighbor who still keeps a jar of olives in the fridge. They'll tell you, this sandwich had attitude.
Number 16.
Deviled ham sandwich. You ever spread something so zesty it made your tongue tingle and your eyes pop wide open? That's deviled ham. The spicy, creamy meat mash that came straight from a can but tasted like it had a story to tell folks. Would mix it with mayo, mustard, maybe a splash of relish or hot sauce, then slather it thick on white bread or crackers. It was bold, tangy, and had that kick that said, "We ain't playing." Elders remember pulling out the little paper-wrapped tin, popping it open with a butter knife, and making sandwiches that fed a whole crew with just a few scoops. It was the kind of lunch that showed up at picnics, road trips, and quick bites before heading out to work. Ask someone who still remembers the sound of that metal lid cracking open. They'll grin and say, "That sandwich had bite, and it never let you down.
Number 17.
Bacon and peanut butter sandwich. Now this one, it's wild, but it worked. Bacon and peanut butter on bread might sound like a dare today, but back then, it was a working man's fuel. Have you ever tasted that salty crunch of bacon mixed with the creamy, nutty punch of peanut butter? It was bold, messy, and unforgettable. Elders remember making this sandwich before heading to the mill or the fields. No eggs, no fancy fixins, just protein and flavor stacked between two slices. Some folks toasted the bread, some added jelly or hot sauce, but the base was always the same: crispy bacon, thick peanut butter, and a whole lot of hustle. It was the kind of sandwich that didn't care about rules. It cared about keeping you full and moving. Today, folks might raise an eyebrow, but ask your granddaddy or that neighbor who still fries bacon in a cast iron pan. They'll tell you, this sandwich was a powerhouse.
Number 18.
Potted meat sandwich. Have you ever dug into a sandwich so humble it felt like a quiet nod to hard times and strong hearts? That's the potted meat sandwich. Soft, salty, and spreadable like a secret passed down through generations. Straight from the can, this mystery mix of meats was blended with spices and preservatives, then smeared on white bread like it was gold. Folks didn't ask what was in it. They just knew it filled bellies and stretched paychecks. Elders remember it sitting on pantry shelves next to Vienna sausages and powdered milk, ready to be called into action when dinner had to be quick and cheap. Some added pickles, some mixed in mayo, but most just kept it simple and moved on. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. A sandwich that showed grit, grace, and the kind of quiet strength that built families. You won't find it on fancy menus, but you'll find it in the stories of folks who made something out of nothing.
Number 19.
The bacon and peanut butter sandwich. You ever bite into something so strange it made you pause, then smile wide 'cause it worked? That's the bacon and peanut butter sandwich, a salty, sweet mashup that had no business being that good. Crispy bacon lay over thick peanut butter, sometimes on toasted bread, sometimes just slapped together quickly. It was smoky, nutty, and sticky in all the right ways. Elders remember making this late at night, after long shifts, or when the fridge was looking bare but the pantry still had promise. Some folks added banana, some went crunchy over creamy, but the real ones knew this sandwich was a rebel with flavor. Have you ever talked to someone who still swears by it like it's their secret weapon? They'll say it hits harder than it should. This wasn't just a snack, it was a dare, a delight, and a whole lot of don't knock it till you try it.
Number 20.
Olive loaf sandwiches. You ever open a lunchbox and see something speckled with green and pink sitting proud between two slices of white bread? That was olive loaf, the mystery meat with attitude. It wasn't just bologna with flair. It was a deli staple that said, "We fancy today." Packed with pimentos and green olives, this sandwich had a salty tang that hit different elders. Remember it wrapped in wax paper, sitting in the fridge next to the orange soda, waiting for school lunch or a quick bite before heading to work. It was cheap, bold, and didn't need dressing up. Maybe a swipe of mustard, maybe not. And the smell? You knew it was olive loaf before you even saw it. Some folks turned their nose up, but others swore by it. A slice of pride in hard times. You ever ask someone who grew up with a meat slicer at the corner store? They'll tell you this sandwich was loud, proud, and unforgettable.
Number 21.
Bread and milk sandwich. Have you ever wondered what survival tasted like during the hardest years in America, when every penny mattered and every ingredient meant something. The bread and milk sandwich was one of those humble classics, born from necessity, not luxury. Picture a kitchen in the 1930s or early 40s. Cold outside, coal burning low, and a parent quietly softening slices of bread with sweetened milk just so their kids would not go to bed hungry. No frosting, no fillings, no fancy spreads, just bread soaked in milk, sometimes dusted with a little sugar or cinnamon when the family was feeling lucky. And here's the real kicker. Even though it sounds unbelievably simple today, back then it felt like comfort, a warm hug disguised as a meal. Seniors who lived through the Depression or wartime rationing still remember the taste, the texture, and the feeling.
Number 22.
Cheese and apple sandwich. You ever bite into something that mixed sharp with sweet like it was meant to be? That's the cheese and apple sandwich, a forgotten gem that balanced bold cheddar with crisp apple slices. Folks would layer tart Granny Smiths or mellow reds over thick slabs of cheese, sometimes with a swipe of mustard or honey, all tucked between soft bread or toasted rye. It was crunchy, creamy, and full of contrast, the kind of combo that made you pause mid-bite and smile. Elders remember making this when fruit was fresh and cheese was always in the fridge. Some added walnuts, some grilled it like a melt, but the magic was in the mix. Ask someone who still believes lunch should surprise you. They'll say this sandwich was a quiet stroke of genius.
Number 23.
Mock chicken sandwich. Now here is a sandwich with a story. The mock chicken sandwich. And it begs the question, what do you do when you crave something you cannot afford? You get creative. During the Depression and wartime rationing, real chicken was expensive, sometimes impossible to find. So families got clever, grinding cheap bologna, crackers, and seasoning until it looked and tasted close enough to chicken salad. Some added a drop of yellow food coloring just to give it that golden chicken hue, and others seasoned it with sage, celery salt, or onion to mimic that Sunday dinner flavor. And here's the wild thing. Kids growing up in the 40s, 50s, and even the early 60s sometimes never even realized it was not chicken. To them, this sandwich tasted like a treat. Smooth, creamy, savory, sometimes slightly sweet, and always filling. Seniors today chuckle when they talk about it, remembering that moment when they finally learned the truth, that their chicken sandwich never met a chicken in its life.
Number 24.
Chopped egg and vinegar sandwich. You ever taste something so sharp and creamy it made your mouth wake up? That's the chopped egg and vinegar sandwich, a tangy twist on egg salad that your grandparents swore by. They'd boil the eggs, chop them rough, then mix in a splash of vinegar instead of just mayo. Sometimes a little mustard, maybe a pinch of salt and pepper, and that was it. Slapped between two slices of bread, it was bold, briny, and full of character. Elders remember making this on hot days when cooking wasn't an option, or packing it for work when meat was too expensive. It was quick, cheap, and packed with protein. Some folks added onions or celery for crunch, but the vinegar, that was the secret handshake. Today, folks might turn up their nose, but ask your grandma or that neighbor who still boils eggs every Sunday. They'll tell you, this sandwich had bite and backbone.
Number 25.
Ham and cheese sandwich. Have you ever looked at a simple ham and cheese sandwich and thought, there is no way something this basic could have history behind it? But for families living through the Depression, wartime rationing, and the lean years that followed, this sandwich was more than lunch. It was strategy. Ham was precious, and every slice had to stretch. Some mothers would shave it paper thin, almost see-through, and layer it carefully with just one slice of processed cheese to make it feel fuller than it was. A dab of mustard or mayonnaise wasn't just flavor, it was filler, helping the sandwich feel complete when the protein was scarce. And here's where memory hits. Kids who grew up during those years remember watching their parents spread that mayo all the way to the edges, like they were painting on hope.
Number 26.
Beef drippings, onion sandwich. Picture the frontier kitchen where nothing went to waste. Families saved beef drippings from the skillet, poured them over bread, and topped with sharp onions to make a sandwich that seniors still recall with grit and pride. It wasn't fancy chow, but it was filling, smoky, and bold. A poor man's grub that carried folks through long days of work. That first bite was greasy and rich, onions cutting through with bite, a taste that echoed resilience and resourcefulness. Beef drippings, onion sandwiches weren't just food, they were history in hand. Proof of survival turned into comfort, a flavor that still lingers in memory.
Number 27.
Chicken liver sandwich. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you saw someone willingly make a sandwich out of chicken livers? Probably never. But for our grandparents, especially during the Depression, the chicken liver sandwich was not just food. It was survival with dignity. Back then, when a family bought a chicken, nothing, and I mean nothing, went to waste. The livers were cooked gently with onions mashed or finely chopped and mixed with a little mayonnaise or fat to stretch it further. Sometimes a boiled egg was added if the family was lucky enough to have one. The result? A rich, iron-packed spread that filled stomachs and kept families going through long days of hard work and cold winters. Seniors who remember eating this do not talk about it like a punishment. Instead, they describe the flavor as deep, earthy, comforting.
Number 28.
Curried sardine salad sandwich. Here is a sandwich that makes people today stop and say, hold up, curry and sardines? Together? But during the 1940s through the mid-century years, this curried sardine salad sandwich was proof that even in hard times, creativity did not disappear. It evolved. Picture ration books on the counter, grocery stores with empty meat shelves, and mothers determined to make something nutritious, flavorful, and filling from what was left. Canned sardines were cheap, shelf-stable, and packed with protein. Add a hard-boiled egg if you had chickens, a scoop of mayonnaise, a squeeze of lemon, maybe a chopped onion or celery stick, and suddenly that little can turned into something bigger. Then came the twist, a pinch of curry powder. It was exotic back then, something new, exciting, and just mysterious enough to feel like a luxury.
Number 29.
Sloppy Joe sandwich. Ever take a bite of something messy, warm, and comforting and feel like it carries a whole generation's story with it? The Sloppy Joe sandwich is exactly that. A dish born from tight budgets, resourcefulness, and the belief that even hard times deserved flavor. Picture mid-century kitchens where meat was expensive, families were large, and waste was not an option. Ground beef was stretched with tomato sauce or ketchup, onions, spices, sometimes even oats or breadcrumbs, just to make it go further. The mixture simmered until thick and savory, then spooned onto soft hamburger buns, steaming, saucy, and impossible to eat without dripping a little.
Number 30.
Mayonnaise and lettuce sandwich. When the summer heat rolled in and gardens gave more lettuce than folks knew what to do with, this sandwich became a quick fix. Seniors recall how a swipe of mayonnaise and a crisp leaf of lettuce turned plain bread into something cool and refreshing. Some laughed and called it rabbit chow. Others swore it was the perfect light bite after long days in the sun. That first crunch was clean and creamy, a taste that carried the memory of backyard gardens, simple living, and making do with what was on hand. The mayonnaise and lettuce sandwich wasn't about luxury. It was about resourcefulness, a reminder that even the humblest pairings could stick in memory and carry the flavor of resilience.
Number 31.
Hot brown. You ever taste something so rich it felt like a celebration? That's the hot brown, a warm, open-faced sandwich born in Kentucky, but loved all over. It started with roasted turkey laid on toast, then smothered in creamy Mornay sauce, topped with tomato slices and crispy bacon, then broiled till bubbly and golden. Elders remember this as a Sunday treat, a special occasion bite that showed up when company came over or when leftovers got fancy. It was messy, indulgent, and unforgettable. Some folks added ham, some used cheddar instead of Parmesan, but the soul of it stayed the same. Comfort, layered with love. Today, folks chase brunch trends, but ask your grandpa or that neighbor who still cooks like it's 1955. They'll tell you. This sandwich was Southern hospitality on a plate.
Number 32.
Potted meat and pickle sandwich. Back when canned goods were the lifeline of many kitchens, potted meat found its way onto bread, often paired with the sharp bite of pickles. Seniors recall how this sandwich carried both salt and tang, a quick fix that filled bellies when fresh meat was out of reach. Some folks called it tin can chow. Others laughed that it was cheap but mighty. Yet everyone remembers the way the pickles crunch cut through the soft, savory spread. That first bite was bold and briny, a taste tied to resilience and the creativity of families who stretched every penny. The potted meat and pickle sandwich wasn't about luxury. It was about survival, memory, and the stubborn pride of making something flavorful out of what little you had.
Number 33.
Anchovy paste sandwich. Now here's a sandwich that will make most people today raise an eyebrow and say, "No way." But back then, the anchovy paste sandwich was a quiet lifesaver. Salty, bold, and cheap enough to feed a family when protein was almost impossible to afford. Picture a working-class kitchen in the 1930s or 40s, Dad heading to the mill, the fields, or the factory, and Mom packing lunch with whatever she had. A tiny squeeze of anchovy paste, spread thin over buttered bread, carried enough flavor to make the whole sandwich feel like something substantial. Some families added a slice of boiled egg if they had chickens. Others added a little onion or lemon juice to mellow the sharpness. Because the flavor was so strong, one tube could stretch across weeks, making it one of the most economical flavor boosters of its time. Seniors who grew up with these sandwiches often talk about them with a half laugh, half nostalgic sigh, because while the taste may have been intense, it also meant you had lunch that day. It was survival disguised as sophistication.
Number 34.
Boiled potato and butter sandwich. When the stove gave nothing but boiled spuds, families found a way to turn them into a sandwich. Seniors recall how slices of potato, still warm, were laid on bread and topped with a smear of butter, creating a filling bite that carried both comfort and necessity. Some folks joked it was tater toast. Others swore it was the best way to stretch a meal when meat was scarce. That first bite was soft and rich, the butter melting into the bread, a flavor tied to long evenings, hard work, and the stubborn pride of making something out of almost nothing. The boiled potato and butter sandwich wasn't about luxury. It was about survival, memory, and the creativity of kitchens that refused to go hungry.
Number 35.
Sardine and pickled egg sandwich. Picture the frontier lunch sack, where salty sardines met the sharp tang of pickled eggs pressed into bread. Seniors recall this sandwich with grit and humor, a protein-packed fix that carried families through lean times. Some folks loved the briny bite, others teased it as fishy grub, but everyone remembers how it filled bellies when nothing else was around. That first bite was bold and tangy, a flavor that echoed campfires, scarcity, and the resourcefulness of frontier kitchens. Sardine and pickled egg sandwiches weren't just food, they were history in hand, proof that even the oddest pairings could become unforgettable memories.
Number 36.
Relish and cheese sandwich. Sometimes the kitchen magic came from nothing more than a jar of relish and a slice of cheese. Seniors recall how this sandwich carried a sweet, tangy kick, balanced by the creamy melt of cheese, turning plain bread into something worth remembering. Some folks joked it was picnic chow. Others swore it was the perfect quick bite when money was tight. That first crunch was sharp and smooth all at once, a flavor tied to backyard gatherings, lean years, and the creativity of families who stretched every scrap. The relish and cheese sandwich wasn't about luxury. It was about making do, about turning odds and ends into a taste that stuck in memory, proof that even the simplest pairings could carry pride and resilience.
Number 37.
Cabbage and mustard sandwich. When gardens overflowed with cabbage and meat was nowhere to be found, folks turned to this sharp and scrappy sandwich. Seniors recall how crisp cabbage leaves layered on bread came alive with a smear of mustard that packed a fiery punch. Some laughed and called it farmhand fuel. Others swore it was the perfect way to stretch the harvest when cupboards were bare. That first bite was crunchy and bold, the mustard cutting through with heat, a taste tied to long days in the fields and the stubborn pride of making something out of almost nothing. The cabbage and mustard sandwich wasn't about luxury, it was about resilience, memory, and the creativity of families who refused to let simple ingredients go to waste.
Number 38.
Chicken salad sandwich. Have you ever heard a grandparent talk about a meal that stretched farther than money ever could? The chicken salad sandwich was that quiet hero. The one that showed up when the family was trying to make one chicken last days, not just dinner. Picture this. Sunday dinner was roasted chicken. Monday became soup. And by Tuesday, whatever bits were left, the tiny pieces clinging to the bones, were chopped fine and turned into chicken salad. Nothing wasted. Not ever. Some families added celery for crunch, or hard-boiled eggs if they had them, or even apples to stretch it without anyone noticing. Mayo tied everything together, though some folks swore by mustard or sweet relish depending on where they lived. Then it spread onto soft bread, sometimes with crusts cut off when there was company, sometimes just slapped together for workers heading to the fields or the factory.
Number 39.
Apple butter and cheese sandwich. When autumn rolled in and pantries filled with jars of apple butter, families found a way to stretch it into something more. Seniors recall how a swipe of that sweet-spiced spread met a slice of cheese between bread, creating a sandwich that was both comforting and curious. Some folks joked it was farmhouse fancy. Others swore it was the perfect balance of sweet and savory when cupboards were thin. That first bite was smooth and tangy, the apple butter melting into the cheese, a flavor tied to harvest season, lean years, and the pride of making do with what you had. The apple butter and cheese sandwich wasn't about luxury. It was about memory, resilience, and the creativity of kitchens that turned simple jars into lasting stories.
Number 40.
Fat and bread sandwich. Picture the frontier table where rendered animal fat was spread thick across bread to make a sandwich that seniors still recall with grit and humor. It wasn't fancy chow, but it was filling, heavy, and carried families through lean times when every scrap mattered. Some folks loved the rich flavor, others teased it as poor man's butter. But everyone remembers how it kept hunger away during long days of work. That first bite was warm and greasy, a taste that echoed scarcity, resilience, and the creativity of frontier kitchens. Fat and bread sandwiches weren't just food, they were history in hand, proof that survival could still carry comfort and memory.
Number 41.
BLT sandwich, bacon, lettuce, and tomato. You ever bite into something so fresh and crispy it made you feel like summer was back? That's the BLT, bacon, lettuce, and tomato, stacked with love and a swipe of mayo. It wasn't just a sandwich, it was a ritual. Elders remember frying up bacon in the morning, slicing garden tomatoes still warm from the sun, and laying it all on toasted bread with iceberg crunch. It was simple, but it hit hard. Salty, juicy, creamy, and crisp all in one bite. Some folks added avocado, some used Miracle Whip, but the OG BLT, that was porch sitting, radio playing, and paper napkin living. Today, folks dress it up. But ask your grandma or that neighbor who still grows tomatoes out back. They'll tell you, this sandwich was the taste of home.
Number 42.
Sourdough starter sandwich. Picture the frontier kitchen where sourdough starter wasn't just for baking. Sometimes it became the meal itself. Families kept their starter alive for years, passing it down like a tradition, and seniors still recall how it was spread on bread for a tangy, filling sandwich. Some folks loved the sharp, sour punch. Others teased it as trail grub. But everyone remembers how it carried them through lean times. That first bite was bold and earthy, a taste that echoed resilience and the creativity of frontier kitchens. Sourdough starter sandwiches weren't just food, they were history in hand, proof that even the simplest scraps could become a memory worth retelling.
Number 43.
Onion ash sandwich. Picture the frontier campfire where onions were roasted until charred, their smoky ash flavor pressed into bread. Seniors recall this sandwich as gritty and unusual, born from the creativity of folks who refused to waste a thing. Some loved the bold, smoky punch. Others thought it was too strange, but everyone remembers how it carried the scent of the trail and the resilience of hard times. That first bite was sharp and earthy, a flavor that echoed survival and ingenuity. Onion ash sandwiches weren't just food, they were history in hand, proof that even the simplest scraps could become a memory worth retelling.
Number 44.
Bologna pizza sandwich. You ever turn leftovers into something that tasted like a party? That's the Bologna pizza sandwich, a wild working-class remix that hit different. Folks would fry up a slice of bologna till the edges curled, then slap on tomato sauce, sprinkle shredded cheese, maybe a dash of oregano, and broil it right on bread. It was pizza vibes without the dough, and it came together in minutes. Elders remember making this after school, late at night, or when payday was still a week away. It was greasy, cheesy, and full of attitude, the kind of sandwich that made you feel like you were eating good even when times were lean. Some added hot sauce, some used ketchup, but the spirit stayed the same, Make it work. Make it tasty. Ask someone who grew up with a toaster oven and a dream. They'll tell you. This sandwich was pure invention.
Number 45.
Roasted coffee glazed pork sandwich. Picture the frontier campfire, where pork was roasted slow and brushed with a glaze made from strong coffee. Seniors recall this sandwich as bold and inventive, a flavor that carried the smoky scent of the trail. Some folks loved the sweet bitter punch, others thought it was too strange, but everyone remembers how it stood out in the lunch sack. That first bite was savory and sweet, rugged and rich, a taste that lingered like the memory of long nights on the plains. Roasted coffee glazed pork sandwiches weren't just food, they were history in hand. Proof of grit, creativity, and the frontier spirit that turned simple scraps into unforgettable flavor.
Number 46.
Cream cheese and olive sandwich. You ever spread something smooth and salty that made your whole day feel a little fancier? That's the cream cheese and olive sandwich, a quiet classic that packed punch and polish. Folks would mix chopped green olives into softened cream cheese, sometimes with a dash of garlic powder or a splash of olive juice, then spread it thick on white or rye bread. It was creamy, briny, and had that grown-up flavor that made you feel like you were eating something special. Elders remember serving this at baby showers, bridge clubs, or just making it for themselves when they wanted a break from the usual. It was light, but it lingered. A sandwich that whispered, not shouted. Some added pimentos, some used black olives, but the vibe stayed classy. Ask someone who still keeps a tub of cream cheese in the fridge and knows how to make a snack sing. They'll tell you. This sandwich was quiet luxury before that was even a thing.
Number 47.
Bologna and mustard sandwich. Picture the frontier lunch sack, where slices of bologna met the sharp fire of mustard between bread. Seniors recall this sandwich with grit and humor, a quick fix that carried both flavor and practicality. Some folks loved the tangy punch, others teased it as cheap trail grub, but everyone remembers how it stood out in the midday meal. That first bite was salty and bold, mustard cutting through with bite, a taste that echoed resilience and the creativity of families making do. Bologna and mustard sandwiches weren't just food, they were history in hand, proof that even the simplest pairings could become a memory worth retelling.
Number 48.
Fried bologna sandwiches. You ever hear that sizzle in the pan and know lunch was about to slap? That's the fried bologna sandwich, a blue-collar classic that turned humble meat into a crispy masterpiece. Folks would score the edges so it wouldn't bubble, fry it till the rim curled like a hat, then lay it on white bread with mustard, mayo, or even a slice of cheese. It was smoky, salty, and had that greasy goodness that stuck to your ribs. Elders remember making this after school, between shifts, or just because it was what they had, and it never disappointed. Some toasted the bread, some doubled the meat, but the fried bologna, that was the hero. Ask someone who grew up with a cast-iron skillet and a fridge full of stretch-it meals. They'll tell you. This sandwich was the sound of survival and the taste of pride.
Number 49.
Cuban sandwich. You ever bite into something so layered and loaded it felt like a whole story in one chew? That's the Cuban sandwich. Crispy, melty, and stacked with swagger. It started in Florida's cigar factories, where Cuban workers pressed roast pork, ham, Swiss cheese, pickles, and mustard between crusty Cuban bread. Then they grilled it till the outside was golden and the inside was a molten dream. Elders remember grabbing this from corner cafes, wrapped in wax paper, still warm from the press. It was bold, balanced, and full of rhythm. Every bite a mix of salt, tang, and soul. Some folks added salami, some used French bread when Cuban wasn't around, but the spirit stayed strong. Ask someone who grew up near a train station or a lunch counter with a hot press and they'll tell you. This sandwich was heritage you could hold in your hands.
Number 50.
Cornmeal, Johnny Cake Sandwich. Picture the frontier hearth, where cornmeal Johnny Cakes were baked thick and hearty, then split to cradle simple fillings. Seniors recall this sandwich as a staple of survival, a taste that carried families through long days of labor and lean times. Some folks loved the earthy, warm bite, and others teased it as trail bread. But everyone remembers how it filled bellies and carried the scent of campfires. That first bite was rustic and grounding, a flavor that echoed resilience and the creativity of frontier kitchens. Cornmeal Johnny Cake sandwiches weren't just food, they were history in hand. Proof that even the humblest grain could become a memory worth retelling.
Number 51.
Taco-inspired ground beef sandwich. You ever crave something that tasted like Friday night but came from a weekday kitchen? That's the taco-inspired ground beef sandwich, a spicy, savory mashup that brought fiesta vibes to the lunch table. Folks would brown up ground beef with taco seasoning, maybe toss in onions or peppers, then pile it onto bread with shredded cheese, lettuce, and a splash of hot sauce. Sometimes it was served sloppy, sometimes grilled like a melt, but it always hit with that bold, beefy kick. Elders remember making this when taco shells ran out, or when stretching leftovers meant getting creative. It was messy, mouth-watering, and full of flavor that didn't quit. Some added sour cream, some went heavy on the spice. But the soul of it was always that taco twist. Ask someone who knew how to turn pantry scraps into a party. They'll tell you. This sandwich was weeknight magic with a south-of-the-border swagger.
Number 52.
Shrimp salad rolls. You ever bite into something cool, creamy, and straight from the coast? That's the shrimp salad roll, a summertime stunner that brought seaside flavor to everyday tables. Folks would boil or saute shrimp, chop them fine, then mix with mayo, celery, lemon juice, and a little seasoning. Scoop that into a soft split-top roll, and you had a sandwich that felt like a vacation, even if you were eating it on a lunch break. Elders remember serving these at family reunions, fish fries, or just sitting on the porch with a cold drink and a breeze. Some added dill, some used Old Bay, but the shrimp, that was the crown jewel. Ask someone who still remembers the smell of low tide and the sound of screen doors slamming. They'll tell you, this sandwich was sunshine in a bun.
Number 53.
Buffalo jerky sandwich. Picture the Wild West, where buffalo jerky wasn't just a snack, it was survival. Cowboys and settlers carried strips of smoky, salty meat tucked into bread, a sandwich that seniors still recall with grit and pride. Some folks loved the tough chew, others joked it could break a tooth. But everyone remembers how it fueled long rides and campfire nights. That first bite was rugged and smoky, echoing the hoofbeats of buffalo herds and the resilience of frontier families. Buffalo jerky sandwiches weren't just food, they were history in hand, proof of resourcefulness and the creativity of people who made something bold out of what the land gave. It's bittersweet to realize how many of these poor man's sandwiches have vanished from our tables, fading like echoes of the past. Yet each one carried grit, pride, and the flavor of survival, proof that even the humblest scraps could become a memory worth retelling. Seniors still smile when they recall these bites because they weren't just food, they were stories of resilience, laughter, and hope. And now, it's up to us to keep those stories alive. Which of these sandwiches surprised you the most? Which one stirred up a memory from your own family's kitchen? Share your thoughts, because every comment adds another voice to this legacy. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and drop a comment, not just to support the channel, but to keep alive the taste of history, the pride of survival, and the flavors that remind us who we are.